WHOW. Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today is Mrs. Cheryl Warner, who is the superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools. Mrs. Warner, always good to catch up with you. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Seth. We're doing really well. It's kind of crazy. It's in October. Here we go.
I know it.
We're just figuring out all of our information for how to get a hold of radio stations if we have to close school today. So for weather. So.
I know it. I was thinking, I can't believe it's already week 9 of the football season. And
right.
Yeah, here we are. But Mrs. Warner, as we catch up today, I know you always bring somebody special on to chat with us. Who do you have with you today?
Right. So today I have with me Tory Williams. She serves in multiple capacities. She is a senior project manager with ADM. She also serves as the ADM Cares Ambassador, working with Warrensburg-Latham School District in a unique role because she is my school board president as well. So I thought today would be a good time to bring her in to highlight all of the partnerships that we've had with ADM in relation to grant opportunities, not only in the past, but the unique direction that it's heading in the future.
Sure. Well, let's start with, first of all, Mrs. Williams, thank you for making time with us. It's good to have you on the call with us. Tell us about ADM Cares. Folks probably have heard that before, that term and that program, but maybe they don't know exactly what it is, what it's all about. Give us that background to start out.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me today. So ADM Cares is an organization within ADM that works to sustain and strengthen the communities where their colleagues work and live. And that's through direct funding to organizations which drive meaningful social, economic, and environmental change. 3 main pillars that the ADM Cares giving focuses on include food security, health and well-being, and sustainability. And if I could I'll go into some of the partnership here that ADM Cares has had with Warrensburg-Latham. ADM Cares has supported a few educational initiatives at Warrensburg-Latham, one being including the renovations of the school's greenhouse last year and contributing to the outdoor learning space at the elementary school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Mrs. Warner talking about that one not that long ago. So, yeah, and Mrs. Warner, if you don't mind, speak to just how much that has helped. Just the access to ADM Cares, the knowledge of what is available there, how much that has helped your district over the years.
Right. So those local grants that we can tap into for specific projects are so valuable because usually we're looking at particular projects that aren't eligible for other types of grant opportunities. And these are also the opportunities where it's not only possibly working on the facility or educational materials, but also looking at what's the long-lasting impact of the district, using the greenhouse as one of those. This was a multi-year project. ADM in the end funded really 100% of that project, which ended up being close to $90,000 by the time we were done. Mm-hmm. We needed to completely demo and create a whole new structure for our greenhouse due to storm damage and whatnot. But the lasting impact of a structure like that in a district like mine, that's a K-12 district where we're all connected, is this is not just a project for ag and FFA. Mm-hmm. It's a project for the entire district and community. So we have elementary students that are using that facility, that our ag and FFA high school leaders are facilitating educational experiences. They hold sales for vegetables and plants for the entire community. Mm-hmm. So what I love is that when we look at these kinds of projects, it's not just a structure, right? It's about all the opportunities that it opens up for the district, which for us have just been really endless. And every year we're able to do a little bit more in terms of how that greenhouse becomes a staple, not only in the education of the district, but also a service to the community.
You basically got your own little farmer's market there.
Right, exactly. And we have a wonderful, Lisa Agnew is our ag and FFA supervisor and teacher, and she's been growing this program very strong the last 3 years with a lot of stability and leadership in her program. So we're really starting to see that take off. But the supplement from ADM Cares grants for the last several years have assisted us in multiple projects. Typically, the focus in the past was more STEM related, more science and math and engineering type of focus, right? So I would work pretty closely with our ag and science teachers and administrators to determine the areas that the district wanted to focus on. So besides the greenhouse, we've also created an outdoor classroom space. We've also used some significant dollars towards math and science curriculum at the elementary level. But now we're starting to see a shift. As Tory mentioned, those focus areas are shifting to food security, sustainability, health, and well-being, which is really a whole different mindset when you start to look at these grants. So we really had to kind of think, what's the best use of grant dollars for the district moving forward, with those pillars being the emphasis and focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mrs. Williams, if you don't mind, speak to maybe that change in focus with ADM Cares.
Yeah, absolutely. So ADM really is a proud part of the agricultural community in Macon County. We're not only just a commitment to supporting the industry, but also to ensuring our families in our surrounding communities, such as Warrensburg-Latham, have access to the food and resources they need. This is what made the grant that we're going to announce today a great fit for partnership with Warrensburg-Latham to continue that. So when we talk about the 3 key areas, food security, which includes donation to supply food for those in need, and health and well-being, including providing nutritious meals to school. And so I know Mrs. Warner is excited to talk about the grant that we are getting awarded for Warrensburg-Latham this year from the ADM Cares grant to meet and those pillars that have been established from ADM Cares.
That's awesome. Are you able to talk about that, Mrs. Warner?
I think so, right, Tory?
Yeah, absolutely.
Publicly. Okay. So to kind of, before I go there, Seth, one thing I'd like to share is I have 2 obstacles in my district currently, right? That are, these are the things you lose sleep over as a leader in education. We have declining grant funds coming into the district. We're all facing what we would consider some tumultuous financial times in school districts. We're going to see this fiscal cliff that's being talked about at the state level. But I'm starting to see a significant decline as the years have gone by in my pre-K grant funding, which is a state grant, as well as my Title I federal grant, which we know those will continue to probably be at risk as we move forward in the future. The thing that's so discouraging about seeing decreasing dollars in those grants is these are the grants that service our most at-risk students. They're servicing our 3 and 4-year-olds that have to be eligible for a program with a whole number of risk factors to be able to be enrolled in pre-K. And then when we talk about our Title I dollars, we're talking about our free and reduced population, our at-risk population in terms of learning issues. And then along with that, Warrensburg-Latham is seeing an increase, a significant increase in the free and reduced rate that our families are being eligible for. So, and this is, I'm going to share 24-25 data. At the end of the year in June, our total free and reduced population was at 48.7 for the district. So we're close to 50%, which is a significant change in the last 5 years. We were seeing that at the elementary level. Now that population is moving on into middle school and high school. So we're seeing it impact the district across the board. And as we've talked about before, Seth, we're also seeing an increase in enrollment. So, as educators, we're always asked to do more, but we're getting less resources to do that with. So this is where ADM Cares is critically valuable. And when I saw the shift in the pillars for this year, I kind of threw some ideas at Tory and was like, hey, do you think that this would work? Because every year I struggle with, how are we going to continue to maintain food costs, number one, for our pre-K program, because they have to be provided with all free meals and snacks. Mm-hmm. We do not ever ask those families for a single dollar, and we can't. So right now that's being budgeted, and it gets larger and larger every year. But the other issue is we have more and more families that deal with food insecurity as well. When we begin to see that free and reduced rate increase, and we realize that students aren't with us for every meal of the day. Right. And we start to see more referrals from the community, from our Helping Hands organizations, from our counselors, of families that are in need. So that's the focus that we took. It's a really it's a vital need for our district. So I was glad to see the change because it allowed me to think out of the box besides just a project that we want to accomplish, and instead what's long-term impacting results we can have. So ADM did grant us $45,000. $30,000 is exclusively set aside for meals and snacks for our pre-K students. I anticipate that this will last us a minimum of 5 years. Wow. For every student to be provided with breakfast, lunch, and snacks based on our enrollment. So when I look at that across the board, 5 years would be a total of about 300 students that we service in that program, which is well over, 1,800 meals. So when I shared this with our pre-K staff, of course, they were absolutely elated. Right. And then we've set aside $15,000 for general food security for any family that's in need. So we'll base that on a referral program. We have lots of counselors and social workers, our SRO officer, our administrators, our teachers that are very aware of families that just need a little bit of support. And we're going to set that money aside for them as well, which we also believe that will probably last multiple years.
What's that support look like for those folks?
Say that again, Seth.
What does that support look like for them, for those folks?
Right now, I think it would be in the form of actual food supplies and or gift cards related to groceries, whatever that they need. Or it could even relate to holiday meals. It could relate to, backpack supplies that are being sent home on a weekly basis for weekend meals. I think it's just going to vary based on what the family needs. But the other huge benefit to the ADM CARES grants that is different than other state, federal grants that you might apply for is we do have a little more flexibility with them. I actually, when we realized we got this grant, I had reached out to Tory and said, like, hey, if we don't have 15,000 of donations that we need to give, let's just say that is less, can this be attributed to pre-K and or vice versa? And they have the ability to allow us to do that. So we have some flexibility. Again, it will all be based on food security, but you're right, food security could look different dependent on the family and what the need is. Mm-hmm. And I think we have the ability to provide that regardless.
Sure. If it's okay, I wanted to ask Mrs. Williams, are these grants really competitive, Mrs. Williams? On like how much does ADM put out maybe on a yearly basis through its ADM CARES? What does some of those things look like?
Yeah, so not able to share exactly numbers that are put out on a yearly basis, but in terms of competitiveness, I think overall, ADM CARES just really wants to give back to the community. So really finding those partnerships that make sense with those three pillars of focus for the organization. Really, I think the focus too is ADM CARES really appreciates the partnerships with the educators and community leaders really who are committed to supporting families and that food insecurity issue. So really the idea is just to continue to empower our communities, really making sure our students have the foundation to learn and be successful.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, ladies, on that note, I'll tell you what, let's break, come back with some more on how this is going to impact Warrensburg-Latham schools and the like. Mrs. Warner, in the meantime, how do folks learn more about, when this grant information comes out, how they learn about that, or how they just follow along with all things Warrensburg-Latham schools? Where do they go?
Right. So going to our Warrensburg-Latham website or also downloading the WL app where you can get all sorts of notifications, calendars and everything. And then, of course, this radio slot will be shared today.
Very good. Wonderful. Again, that is Mrs. Cheryl Warner. She's the superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools and joined by her school board president, Mrs. Tory Williams. We'll talk more with them coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Slow down the conversation, dig deeper into an issue, and bring in the state's best and brightest to the table. Taking Stock will still feature monthly episodes with IFB leadership, but the invite list will go beyond our Farm Bureau offices and into your community. Look for Taking Stock with the Illinois Farm Bureau wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and subscribe. You can also find the podcast where you find all the best ag news and information at farmweeknow.com.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn slightly lower, beans steady, and wheat slightly lower. December corn down 3 1/4, 4.20. March corn down 2 1/2, 4.34 1/2. May corn 4.43, down 2 1/4. November beans unchanged, 10.31 3/4. January beans up 1/2 penny, 10.50 1/2. March beans unchanged, 10.64. December Chicago wheat $5 1/2, down.
Listen on the WHOW platforms on AM, FM, and streamed online this Saturday night from 7 till 9 in the evening for our annual Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. We'll have the first information on what area high school football teams make it and who they'll play, plus live interviews with local coaches. It's all this Saturday night from 7 till 9 in the evening on all of WHOW platforms on AM, FM, and the WHOW mobile app, and video streamed on the DeWittDailyNews.com Facebook page and the WHOW TV YouTube channel.
Paul Scarron, CEO of Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. With October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, our state-of-the-art 3D mammo machine can help detect early cancer. Find out details by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know. Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, Mrs. Cheryl Warner is the superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools, joins us on the Zoom, joined by her Board of Education president, Tory Williams. And again, ladies, thanks for making time for us today. Mrs. Warner, we're talking about a $45,000 grant that Warrensburg-Latham received from ADM Cares. We talked about its impact of hundreds of kids across several years. What else kind of goes into this from your perspective? What else is there to talk about with this?
Well, I think another key thing, the supplement of this grant, which allows us to focus on this food stability piece of our most at-risk students, not only those that are dealing with economic issues, but also those that are enrolled in our pre-K program. It takes the stress off of some of the administration and the teachers and staff that work strongly in that program, because I will tell you, as we see grant dollars at the federal and state level decrease, those staff have had to become very creative with how they service, right? And I don't ever want them to have to make a decision where they are putting instruction on the wayside because they're concerned about making sure that there's enough dollars for food security. So again, this ADM Cares grant really takes away that obstacle so that they don't even have to manage or think about that. I can take care of all of that behind the scenes, and they can focus purely on the best instructional model for our pre-K students and our students that are struggling academically. That's just not a concern that I want them to have to work through. They have enough on their plates with educating our children every day. So
well, and I'll tell you, it goes the other way too, right? Like while the teacher is concerned and wants to do something for that student, a student that may be fighting, that food insecurity thing, they are not thinking about, that student is not thinking about its studies, it's the grades and all those things. It's in survival mode. Where's my next meal going to come from? There's probably other factors in the home besides food insecurity. Their minds are not on the educational process in that case, I'm sure.
I mean, you hit it 100%, Seth. We know that if students are hungry, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel secure in their environment, then the obstacles for them to learn are so much greater. So we work very hard as a district to try to remove those obstacles. We have spent the last several years with such an emphasis on SEL, especially at that high school level, and able to change the climate and culture and making sure that our students feel safe and secure and reporting incidents, to the point where we've formally trained them in teen mental health first aid. We have formal mentoring programs. Many of these are programs that we've talked about on your show in the past. So we've spent so much time working on that general wellness piece. And the food security, because dollars are tied to it, is that harder piece, right? When you start to see dollars go away in your categoricals and other places. So yes, this is kind of completes the puzzle where we can continue to relieve some of the things that might be happening that families are dealing with on a regular basis, to remove some of the obstacles so that our students can be focused and ready to learn when they're at school, and we can support their families as much as possible.
Sure. We got a few minutes yet still, ladies. Mrs. Williams, I'd like you to chime in on, the fact that your professional life and can intertwine with your role in serving the community on the school board, and, not necessarily always have to have an education background to serve on a school board. Do you mind speaking to that a little bit, and just, the various perspectives that maybe yourself and other board members bring to the table? How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to discuss that. I think with our particular school board at Warrensburg-Latham, we do have a variety of backgrounds and roles that we play, which make the school board even better and strengthens it. So I think things like, I come from and work in a place like ADM where we can make that connection, but then we have people on our school board that work directly in the ag community, which is really nice for our school board as well. And we have a variety of roles within our school board. Some are business owners themselves as well. And I think that diversity is just really important for those perspectives within our board to support the community and the school.
Mrs. Warner, to wrap us up, anything to piggyback off with that?
Tory and I had a conversation just a week ago, and I probably don't say this often enough, but I am very blessed to work with a wonderful school board. They all always are good at looking at the big picture and making decisions that are in the best interest of students. And they're all on the board for the right reasons. And that says so much in terms of how they support our districts and how they go about making the decisions that are the most critical decisions that they face.
Sure. Well, on that note, ladies, I hate to do it. I know we could talk for probably 5 or 10 more minutes. I got to let us go. Again, that is Mrs. Cheryl Warner, Superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools, our guest on the Zoom, with her board president, Tory Williams, joining us this morning. Network News comes your way now. WHOW. Well done, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that.